spider on this thing. Die, spider, die. What's up, everybody? In today's video we are going to be teaching Emmett how to change oil and recapping how to check oil, because you got to check oil after you change the oil to make sure you put in enough. So easy enough recap. And we are currently driving to AutoZone and then to my mother-in-law's house because we got to get some transmission fluid, because Maui's really low on transmission fluid right now. We think we just noticed a new leak. Finding transmission leaks is hard though.
The reason why we're going to that is because they have the supplies we need there, right?
Yes. So we're going to my mother-in-law's house because my apartment will not allow us to work on cars in the parking lot. And so we're going to her house because they have the ramps and stuff needed for the oil change. So that's what we're going to be doing there. It is a beautiful 4th of July. Happy 4th of July to everybody. I hope you had a great weekend. By the time you see this, it'll be Monday. So it'll be over. So I hope you enjoyed it. And yeah, we are going to get going here in a little bit. I'll see y'all at my mother-in-law's house. Now, when you're putting the vehicle on the ramps, you want your tire in the flat spot right there and up far enough to touch but not roll over the front bump on the ramps, okay? Make sure you put a brick or something behind your rear tires once you get on the ramps. That way, it's extra protection to make sure while you're under the car, the vehicle does not roll over you going backwards. So, Emmett, you ready to learn how to change the oil in a car?
Yes.
Okay. What is this?
Motor oil.
Okay. That is correct. This is motor oil. It is full synthetic motor oil. It is very good for the engine. What is this?
An oil filter.
That's right. It is an oil filter. That is what gets all the gunk and goop out of your oil so it doesn't go in your motor. This, do you know what this is?
It is oil stabilizer.
That is correct. Lucas Oil Stabilizer, to be exact. This stuff right here is absolutely great product. Okay, so I am not sponsored by this company at all. Again, my dad is a mechanic. We put this in all of our vehicles. Huge reason why. When it first came out, my dad decided to try it. We had an old Mercury Cougar, not the sports car style, the family size tank style. Can't remember the year or I'd tell you. Anyway, my stepmom was driving that car down the interstate, and she got off on her exit, drove I think 2 miles past her exit until the car just stopped running. She called my dad and said, "I have no idea what's wrong with the car. It just quit running. Come get me." So my dad jumps in the truck and drives there, and he said about a mile before the exit, he saw a line of oil start, and he was praying it wasn't her car. He literally followed the oil trail until it stopped and then continued for 2 more miles and saw her on the side of the road. He pulled up, crawled into the car, and somehow, some way, the oil drain plug had come out of that car. Normally, if you drive a car till it stops running because it has no oil, everything inside that motor will get so hot it will weld itself together and seize the motor, and it is done. So my dad praying that wasn't the case, went, bought a new oil plug, put it in, filled the car up with oil. The car started right up, no noise, no nothing, no issues. And it was all because of this. So, ever since then, we have put this in every single car we had. It would be cool if I got sponsored by Lucas someday. But again, like I said, I am not sponsored in any way, shape, form, or fashion by them. And that's okay. I'm still going to use their products. All right. So that being said, these are the main things you need when you're doing an oil change. So you need your oil, obviously. You need a filter, and I would recommend you get this. It's not necessary, 100% necessary, but very highly recommended. Okay. Also, you need a ramps to pull your car on, or you can use a jack and jack stands, and some place to drain your oil into so you can dispose of it properly. We have an oil drain pan that I got to go get. I haven't got it yet. But we have an oil drain pan to drain the oil into, so when we get started, we can when we get done, we can dispose of it properly. Okay, Emmett informed me that he didn't quite understand what I was talking about when I said what Lucas is so good for. So I'm going to explain it one more time, just in case y'all didn't get it either. This oil stabilizer, what it does specifically is it coats the gears and any rotating part inside the motor so that it will continue to move smoothly. So once the oil breaks down or completely drains out of the car, there's still a coating of protection around those gears and any rotating piece inside the motor, all the parts inside the motor. There's still a coating around all of that to protect it and keep it moving. So that's why this is so important. Hopefully I explained that better this time and your kids will understand it. If not, leave a comment down below and I'll try to explain it even more. Also, this is a cheap oil catch can. This is what we're going to be draining our oil into. Oil drain pan, oil catch can, whatever you want to call it. Same thing, different words. This is what we're going to be draining our oil into. You'll need something like this for your vehicle if you're going to be doing the oil change on your own. Okay, just because it's a little bit easier to see with me holding the camera, that is the oil filter underneath the car. That is the oil drain plug. That is your oil pan right there. Okay, so when you take the oil drain plug out, it's going to shoot all the way over here, and because there'll be plenty of oil in the vehicle at the time, and then as it goes down less and less, you're going to have to move your oil pan so you can help keep the oil from hitting the ground.
What happens if the oil hits the ground?
Then you got a mess to clean up. You don't want to do that. You want to prevent the mess.
No wonder those oil drain things were created.
We are going to get started. I'm going to start moving stuff down here. Emmett's going to record me doing the oil change, and he's going to learn as I go, hopefully. And then we are going to, every time I do an oil change on this car, he's going to help me. Now, that being said, I wanted to tell y'all, this particular vehicle only uses 5 quarts of oil. Depending on the make, model, and year, you could go anywhere from 5 to 15 gallons of oil, 15 being a diesel truck. But yeah, so make sure you check your owner's manual and find out how much oil your vehicle takes before you start this process, because you do not want to start your vehicle without oil in it. All right, everybody. So in the previous video, Emmett and I told y'all what this is. This is your oil fill cap. when you change your oil, it's not 100% required, but it's a good idea to take this out. That way, when you take the oil drain plug out at the bottom, air's going in while the oil's coming out, kind of like a bottle when you're drinking out of a bottle. You want a little bit of air in there so the water will flow out and the bottle won't collapse. So, take the oil cap off and it helps provide the air so the fluid will drain out of the bottom easier. Okay, so this particular drain plug requires a 14 millimeter. They're all different sizes. I couldn't even begin to tell you what sizes to look for, but on this particular vehicle, it's a 14 millimeter. And like I said before, if you want to try to set your drain pan up in line with where you think the oil is going to go. That way you have less of a mess to clean up later. Most oil drain pans have a little screen in there big enough to let your plug fall into without going into the oil. That way you can get your hand out of the way fast enough and just let it drain. So here we go.
Oh boy, this is gonna be real.
All right, so
I think this might be a little too messy. I'm not sure. Might splash all over this. Oh, the oil's. Oh, okay.
all right, and then you want to move the pan with the oil, so like I said, you don't get as much oil all over the place. So when I take this off, it's gonna make a mess too. Oh man, there's a spider on this thing. Die, spider die. Okay, once it starts dribbling like this, you can go ahead and put your oil plug back in.
Oil plug, cap, same thing.
That's right. Oil plug, cap, same thing.
Different words.
I try to turn it as far as I can with my fingers first. Take whatever I unscrewed it with. Go snug. And boom. You don't have to make it super tight. It's unnecessary. All you're going to do is
just
cause
make it
problems.
But just...
If you over tighten it. Just make it snug. Alright.
And there's
so,
still some oil in there, isn't there?
same thing as before with the oil drain plug. You want to try to line this up as best you can because you don't want to take a bath in oil.
No, that might not be.
All right. 1, 2, 3.
Ooh.
That's still hot. No.
At least you're gonna be washing your hands, am I right?
Yeah.
Not as big as a mess as I thought it would be. I thought it would be so big that it would be like splattering everywhere. Is it like a brown or is it black? Oh, okay.
All right. Now, as soon as that's done draining, I'm going to show you lesson 2 about the oil filter. Okay, so you see this little gasket right here? Can you see it on the film?
Yes.
See this little gasket right here? You always want to make sure that it is still in your oil filter, because the number one issue end up screwing up is they forget to check for that gasket, or yeah, that gasket, and it'll still be on there, and then you'll put the new oil filter on with its new gasket, and you'll double gasket where the oil filter goes, and you will leak oil like crazy, and then your motor will seize up and they have to replace your motor, or you have to replace your motor if you do it yourself like I'm doing. So always check and make sure that gasket is still on the old oil filter. Okay, this is your new oil filter, all right? Now, depending on who you ask is if you should fill this up or not. That being said, I always fill it up. Reason being is so when you first start cranking the motor over, right after filling it up with oil, it doesn't have to take time to fill this up and then go into the motor and keep the motor safe. It goes in the motor a lot faster. So you take this, you take your brand new oil, and you pour it in there. Okay, now what you want to do once you get oil in here is you want to take your finger and rub the gasket with the oil. Good clean oil. Rub it on there. Make sure it's good. And wipe down. Actually, some people go ahead and take this gasket out. That way, when they get the oil on, they can completely coat it. You're not recording me.
Oh, sorry.
They can completely coat this gasket with good, clean oil. All right. Make sure you put it back on all the way when you put it back. But
what I want to know is what happens if you don't put it on all the way.
it'll when you take it off next time, it'll stick to the motor, and then you'll possibly double gasket it and ruin your motor.
Ooh.
So you don't want to do that. So you want to try to make sure you
Put it
get
on
it on there all the way. And
Just-
again, even if you don't and it does stick to the motor, like I said before, always check and make sure that that gasket came off before you put the new one on. All right. You can stop recording now. Okay, so make sure you shouldn't have any issue with this, but make sure you don't mix up your old oil filter with your new oil filter, because that would not be good.
Here's a way you can tell the difference. One is cleaner than the other.
Yes, one should be upside down and the other one shouldn't. Okay, so when you put your new oil filter on, be careful because it's full of oil. You put it on, you have to make sure you do not cross thread it.
What does that mean?
Cross threading is when you're putting something on that has threads, like a bolt, or in this case, an oil filter. It doesn't get stuck and when you're trying to twist it on, like a bottle cap on your soda. If you put it on wrong, it doesn't go on all the way tight. And you have to take it off and try again. Well, you got to do the same thing with your oil filter. Make sure it goes on smooth. Now, one way to tell is when you twist it, it spins on its own and you just barely turn it. Okay? Once it gets snug, like that, you only want to put oil filters on hand tight. I don't know if y'all saw how hard of a time I was having taking it off, the old one off, but that is because the longer the oil filter stays on, the tighter it's going to get on its own because of the swelling and pressure from being vacuum inside the motor. So I only put it on hand tight, like so. That way, hopefully, I won't need a tool to take it off next time I do the oil change.
Okay.
It'll still be tight, but it won't be so tight that I can't do it by hand. So, hand tight, like so, and boom, you're done under the car. So, now, we can get out from under the car and put in our Lucas. Okay, now at this point is when I put in my Lucas. I like to put in the Lucas first, a whole quart of it. So, because Lucas moves so slow, it is like super stringy, slow moving stuff. If you put it in first and then chase it with the motor oil, you don't have to wait as long for it to settle. If you put it in last, it takes a really long time for it to settle. So I put it in first, and it is definitely difficult stuff to get open, but worth every penny. All right, so see how, I don't know if y'all can see that in the camera, but you see how,
Oh,
can you see it?
yeah, I can see it in the camera.
So this right here is what's going over every single gear and rotating mass inside the motor. That's why it's so protective, because it just good and
It's just super
sticky and
stringy and
then you put the whole quart in there. All right, so once that's done, you can take that out, and then technically you could make a funnel out of this, but we're not going to do that right now. Make a funnel out of this. If you're in a tight spot and you need to, just cut this off, make a funnel out of it, because it does have this little cap thing on it you can cut off to make a funnel, but I have a funnel, so I don't need this. So next step, you take your funnel and pour in your oil. Now, remember, like I said earlier, this vehicle takes 5 quarts of oil. Well, this is a quart of Lucas. So, that means you only need 4 quarts of oil. You do not want to overfill your motor, because then it'll leak oil all over the place. The smoother you pour the oil, the less time it'll take.
It did show a warning sign
All right.
anyway.
Now in these bottles, if you get the big 5-quart bottle, each mark on the right side is a quart. Okay?
Okay.
And then from there up is only 1 quart. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and then to wherever it's full at is 5. So far, I've put in 1, 2, 3. I got a little bit more to put in before I need to worry about checking my oil. But you want to stop every now and then and check, because it gets real light and you just get pour happy sometimes, and you don't want that to happen. So
I wonder what that means.
it means you pour heavy and end up pouring in all 5 quarts when you only need 4.
Oh.
Check it again. All right, I think that's a good spot to go ahead and check your dipstick. All right, so now I'm gonna walk over to the dipstick. Reach down, wipe it off, put it back in, because I think we're just a hair short of full. All right, now let's look. See the mark? The mark's right here, and the full line's up here. So we need to put a little bit more oil in. Okay.
I think we just need to put like a tiny bit more in there.
Well, that's what it looks like on the dipstick, but in actuality, in the motor, it's about
the rest
it's
of
about this much from here to here in oil. Do a little bit more. And I'd say that's pretty good. I think we're about a quart. Well, yep, that looks good. So I'll check the dipstick one more time, see where it's at, and then we'll do first startup after the oil change.
Alrighty.
All right, and I want you to tell me if I need to add any more oil or not, okay? All right, what do you think, Emmett? Is it full?
Flip it around again. I think it is.
I think so too. All right, so now you put the dipstick back in. You go back around over here. You take your funnel out and make sure you put your oil cap back on before you start the car. Okay?
Okay.
Put the oil cap back on before you start your vehicle.
Why?
Because if you don't, there's the potential of oil spraying out the oil cap.
Like,
Yeah, it goes all over the place. All right, now we are going to do first startup after your oil change. All right. So we make sure that the cap's on. We know that the drain plug's in. We know that the oil filter's on tight. Cap's on. Everything should be good to start.
now for the moment of truth.
Okay, now if you have a second person helping you, like I do with Emmett, they need to go to the front of the vehicle and then bend down and watch underneath the car. Once I start the car, they are looking to make sure that there are no leaks under the car.
Okay.
What I'm doing is I'm going to start the car and then I'll get out and double check with them.
I don't see any.
All right, no leaks.
Yay! Woo! That's good. At least there's no leaks.
That's right. So that means that everything was tight when I put it back on properly, and the oil change is complete. Now you just got to clean up your mess, which we're going to do off camera. But I appreciate y'all tuning in for this. Next lesson will probably be teaching Emmett how to change a tire. Hopefully you'll tune in for that next week. Okay, little bonus. Last week we went over how to check your oil. This week, in addition to changing the oil, I'm going to tell you how to check your transmission fluid. Step one when checking your transmission fluid is to start the vehicle. Okay. The reason you want to start your vehicle is because if you check your transmission fluid while the vehicle is off, the fluid level will be higher than it would be while the vehicle is running, because the transmission is circulating that fluid the whole time the car is running. After that, it's the same process as it would be when you check your oil. Pull it out, wipe it off. Stick it back in and then check it. Right now it is sitting at a quart. Okay? Now, different than the oil situation, with the oil, you have an oil fill cap. With the transmission, you do not. You stick the transmission funnel in the same hole the dipstick goes in. Alright, for this particular vehicle, it's a Chevy Monte Carlo with the 700 R4. Alright, so you would look up your vehicle's make and model and figure out exactly which oil or transmission fluid your vehicle takes, because every vehicle is different for the most part. This particular transmission calls for Dextron 6. Dextron 6. Okay? So, and just like with the 5 quarts of oil, you have marks down the side for your quarts. After you pour it in there, just take the dipstick. Wipe it off and double check it, because again, unlike the oil, you're actually pouring the transmission fluid through that tube. So when you stick your dipstick in there, you're rubbing against fluid that went against the sides of the transmission inlet. There you have it. So anyway, like I was saying before, these marks indicate, for this one it says pint, but most of the time it indicates an entire quart once you get to that point. And you just check it, pull it out, and boom, wherever it's at, tells you how much you need. If it's not on there, you need a lot more. But that'll do it for today. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Enjoy the ride, and we'll see you next time.
Say America.
America.
Where is it?
America. Back it up, Terry. Back it up. Put it in the